So, students, recording has already started. Uh, Respected Guru Sir is with us, and today the speaker Sanjay Meher. Currently, he is working as an assistant professor in the Department of Political Science, Berhampur University. He is my student in the Sambalpur University. He has done his MPhil with me, and as soon as he completed his MPhil, he appeared the interview Viva board conducted by the OPSC, and he was selected, and he became a youngest, assistant professor in Odisha University system. There are students from this department, those who are having this course, Contemporary Political Thought, and in that course, there is a content, Justice as Fairness by John Rawls. And Professor Shyama Prasad Guru, he is the retired faculty in the PG Department of Political Science and Public Administration, Sambalpur University. So he is with us, and certainly his presence will give confidence to Sanjay to present his lecture with confidence. Right. So as I have already said that Sanjay is going to present his uh, talk, or Sanjay will deliberate on the topic justice as fairness. Sanjay is very much interested in John Rawls. Many times he has said me while he was doing MPhil with me, ki sir, give me a chance. I want to teach John Rawls to the PG students. And I have given that chance to Sanjay. And in that class also I was present. And I found there is a teacher in Sanjay. As this platform is very much based on democratic principle, I don't distinguish between great speaker and the beginners. So I think today the beginners, tomorrow he or she can become great speaker. The only purpose is the contents and the development uh, of emerging teachers, the very purpose of this platform. So I don't hesitate to call Sanjay as the speaker on this platform. In the earlier talk, Professor Dr. Manoj Kumar Panda, he gave a talk on political liberalism of John Rawls. And certainly Sanjay will make use of that talk, and Sanjay will connect that talk with his deliberation, and he will give us a sense what is that justice as fairness, what is the liberty principle, what is the equality principle, and what is the equality of opportunity, what is difference principle given by John Rawls. So let's listen Sanjay, and let's try to understand what he is saying. Now over to you, Sanjay. You may start.
Thank you, sir, for giving me this opportunity. Good evening to all of you. Esteemed Professor Shyama Prasad Guru, sir, and Dr. Himanshu Shekhar Mishra, sir, my teacher, my supervisor, and all your participants. Uh, in fact, it is my proud privilege that the forum that we have developed with my teacher is gaining momentum, and now I'm going to give a lecture on that forum, that is the real politic pedagogical discussion. And in fact, today's discussion that we are going to devote on a thinker, on a theorist, who has been a central reference point for political theory and political philosophy for last 3-4 decades, and he is none other than John Rawls. He is credited with the reviving the grand old style of political theory, and because he shaped political theory from the debate about its death and decline. So my course of discussion will be based on I have divided my talk on introduction, then writing and context of John Rawls, then methods and his true principles of justice, and lastly the criticism. So John Rawls, he is a contemporary American political philosopher. He is a Harvard philosopher. He is an American political theorist who tied to liberal philosophy and values based on experience from Western liberal society. Since the publications of his book, A Theory of Justice, he has been important reference point for any discussion on justice. You may agree with him or disagree with him, but you cannot ignore John Rawls so far as any discussion on justice is concerned. He first written a paper called Justice as Fairness in 1957, and subsequently he developed his idea, the justice as fairness, in his subsequent writings called Political Liberalism, a Theory of Justice in 1971, Political Liberalism in 1993, and Laws of People in 1999. So, what is justice as fairness? In its two most important books, A Theory of Justice and Political Liberalism, he defends his theory entitled Justice as Fairness. Justice as fairness is primarily concerned with the way in which major social institutions distribute fundamental rights and duties and determine the division of advantages from social cooperation. As such, justice as fairness is a theory designed to apply to what Rawls calls the basic structure, that is, the political, social, and economic institutions of society. It provides a normative ideal by which we are to judge the political constitution of a society and the principle of economic and social arrangements. Then, while we see the context and writing, because there are two interpretations, as I told you. One is textual interpretation and another is contextual interpretation. So I will use both, because without context we can't understand the text. So he first developed his book A Theory of Justice in 1971. It was basically a culmination of various movements in the United States during 1960s and 70s. The movement for civil rights, liberation of the blacks, equal rights for the minorities, alleviation of poverty through the Great Society program, and the anti-Vietnam War protest that raised questions about individual and minority right, just and unjust war, and issues of justice in policy formulations and executions. Then he tried to address these crises in his book A Theory of Justice. And he subsequently developed and wrote another book, that is Political Liberalism in 1993, which was his response to the critics, particularly the communitarians who attacks Rawls for ignoring the communitarian aspects of human identity and personality. Then Rawls modified his positions, which he was taken in his book Theory of Justice. Then he wrote another book, that is The Laws of People, while he tried to develop his theory of, tried to inculcate his theory of justice in global perspective. It is the result of emerging challenge of the new world order in the post-Cold War era and the era of globalizations. Then, before going to discuss about Rawls' principles, it is very, very necessary to understand his methods. Rawls is a very, very unique philosopher. He is such a vibrant philosopher who first tried to synthesize both the ideology of liberalism and socialism. Liberalism, the main thrust of liberalism is liberty of the individual, and the main thrust of socialism is social justice and equality. So, a theory of justice uh, try to combine both these ideologies. That's why John Rawls is called as liberal egalitarianism, liberal egalitarian or liberal socialist. As far as the method of Rawls is concerned, he uh, while he constructing his theory, Rawls draws from the long neglected social contract traditions inspired by the contractualists like Hobbes, Locke, Rousseau, and Immanuel Kant. He rejected utilitarianism, which was the dominant tradition when he published a theory of justice. So, what is social contract method? It is the idea refers to an agreement among men whereby they relinquish from the hypothetic state of nature and enter into a civil society. So he revived the social contract method and tried to put a challenge to the very popular utilitarian theory at that time. Utilitarianism based on the principles of greatest benefit of the greatest number. Utilitarians suggest that the righteousness of an action is established by its tendency to promote happiness. That is the priority of good over right. Utilitarian basically used the teleological process, which is based on telos or purpose, that is the good. Rawls criticized utilitarian as being highly individualist because they were violating human rights. Rawls criticized these utilitarians and distinguished between good and rights. Everything good to individual cannot be right. For example, it is good to acquire material prosperity, but it is important how you are acquiring it. So the means is very important. You can't kill two or three men for the benefit of hundreds. So Rawls give priority to right over the good. That is known as deontological process. So in deontological process, here we basically focus on ethics, morality, duty, and obligations. So social contract was developed to understand political authority and political obligations. Rawls modified it to help him to solve the problem of justice, which arises from incompatible claims to the benefit of social cooperation. According to John Rawls, justice is the first virtue of of any society. He here countering Plato, because Plato said that justice is the fourth cardinal features, uh, following by reason, spirit, and appetite. But Rawls is saying that justice is the first virtue, and state or society is a cooperative ventures of self-sufficient individual. As he is a liberal, he he said that human beings are basically a nominal being. They are rational negotiator. They have the reason and rationality. They have rational way of thinking. So there are some incompatible claims, as they are rational being, as they are self-interested being, as they are rational negotiator. They know what best suit to them. So this is the problem of justice. uh, this can be resolved if disagreement is transformed to agreement for the proper distribution of benefits. Rawls gave a model to create agreement, that is, the contractors are sufficiently equal in power, none is able to dominate others. So, what is the need of justice? Uh, let's take an example. For example, as Rawls said, state is a cooperative venture. Man must eat to live, and for living he must produce. So he, though individual is not self-sufficient to produce the entire goods, so they need cooperation. So when they are producing goods and services collaboratively, it needs for the distributions. So how to distribute? It needs principles, rules, constitutions. So how the constitution will be formed? Here Rawls is trying to explain through his thought experiment, that is original positions. Original positions is a hypothetical positions where all are treated equal. No one has unfair beginning advantages based on wealth, assets, fortune, strength, and intelligence. He then introduced a very, very important innovations, that is the veil of ignorance. No one knows what is his place, what is his position in society, or any idea of what will be in future. Also, no conception of what is good or the particular condition of their society. Uh, by these Ralph solves the problem of justice. Uh, while we are considering the original position or veil of ignorance, we may see the background must, because uh, the background gives us a solid understanding. The background is that when the Constitutions of America was drafted in 1787, members of the constitutional conventions in the USA working without veil of ignorance. They legitimized slavery. They legitimized property ownership. They acted in partisan manner. So, veil of ignorance is meant to rectify the error in Constitutional Convention of 1878, sorry, 1787. So, Rawls given a very, very innovative thought experiment, that is the original positions, while individual will choose the principles of justice for distribution of good and services, while in the veil of ignorance they will choose the principle by abstracting from their social position. So so if imagine a group of people. So imagine a group of people who don't know whether they are Dalit or Brahmin, Kuki or Naga, Muslim or Hindu, and so on. Such a group of people will then not know which way the fault lines of discrimination run in their society. They don't know. After the formation of society, in which position they will occupy. So by this, Rawls try to solve the problem of justice. All grounds of disagreements between the rational, self-interested individuals or the contractors. It makes the relationship between contractors a fair one. So, therefore, the rational, self-interested individuals can now agree on principles that deal with impartiality, with their conflicting interests, and are fair to all. This is known as universal consensus or overlapping consensus, as told by the previous speaker, Dr. Manoj Kumar Panda. Thus, anywhere a society is just, these principles are applied in the distribution of resources, that is known as social primary goods. These goods are rights and liberties, powers and opportunities, income, wealth, and self respect. So, here Rawls are using many assumptions. Uh, the first is contractual tradition, as I told you. There was a state of nature before formal state was created. And in original position, people gathered together to have justice. It was not in proper form of society having all knowledge. So veil of ignorance is the Rawls innovations. They don't know their social positions, but they have a sense of justice. They have a sense of economics because they know how to produce. So when they gathered together, they were ignorant because they don't know their positions, talent, identity, and power, but they are wise but uninformed. They are wise, but they are uninformed. They have the reason, rationality to choose what was their best. So general wisdom, they are general in wisdom but particular in ignorance. The individuals or rational individuals are general in wisdom but particular in ignorance. They were ignorant about their identity, as I told you, their talent, their power. So here logical necessity to make these hypotheses in order to evolve a consensus on principles of justice as fairness. It is akin to Rousseau's quest for common good on the basis of general will. So on this background, he given his two principles of justice. Its first principle is each person is to have an equal right to the most extensive total system of equal basic liberties compatible with a similar system of liberty to all. This is known as equal basic liberties principle. Then the second principle is social and economic inequalities are to be arranged so that they are both a the greatest benefit of the least advantaged or worst of, that is known as the difference principle, and b attached to the offices and positions open to all under the conditions of fair equality of opportunity, that is known as fair equality of opportunity principle. So the first principle requires equality in the assignment of basic liberties. As he belongs to liberal tradition, he first prioritized liberty. So basic liberties of a citizen are political liberties, that is the right to vote and to be eligible for public, right to contest in election, freedom of speech and assembly, liberty of conscience and freedom of thought, freedom of person, along with the right to hold personal property, freedom from arbitrary arrest and seizure. Then the second principle, along with the first principle, guaranteed the equality. The first part of the second principle embodied the basic idea of fraternity. So Rawls suggested one measure to determine the least advantaged, namely income and wealth. Which second principle, the first bit of second principle is difference principle, which is known as maximin principle. So the liberty must be given to the individual so that they can develop their inner potentialities, they can develop their skill, they can produce. Then uh, the difference principle is maximin principle, maximum benefit to the minimum advantage people or the worst of people. And 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 the 2b is fair equality of opportunity. Every person has to be given equality of opportunity. So here John Rawls is using a very important term, that is the lexical order. These principles are presented in lexical order. So first principle is liberty has a lexical priority to equality, and equality of opportunity is prior to difference principle. So he's prioritizing equality of opportunity, not equality of outcome, which was the main thrust of egalitarianism. Though he tried to focus on difference principle, he is providing equality of opportunity, not equality of outcome. Then the difference principle is known as positive discrimination or social justice or affirmative action. So the lexical priority is first the equal basic liberty principle will come, then the fair equality of opportunity principle will come, and if there will be a rift between rich and poor, or developed and underdeveloped, then the difference principle or the social justice or positive discrimination principle can be applied to the society. Uh, Here, the difference principle will come in the last. So, as he belongs to the liberal tradition, he prioritized much on liberty or liberalism. Then, uh, if there will be a gap between rich and poor, then the difference principle can be applied. So this is the two principle of justice. When these two principle of justice can be applied to the basic structure of society, then a just society can be imagined, and the just society can be applied. That is known as justice as fairness. So he gave a very comparative analysis alongside with other theories, particularly utilitarianism, perfectionism of Rawls, Marxism, as I told you. So here he is using a very famous term, that is reflective equilibrium. As individuals are rational negotiator, at the same time they are self interested. So reflective element of mind brings rationality and balance in their behavior. So it is not coming from outside, it is within. So principles are reflection of our moral judgment. Though reasons may be different, but all of us will be able to rationalize it. So the you can see the standpoint of justice here, not the standpoint for least advantaged, because individual is rational negotiator or conservative risk taker. He don't want to lose anything, and his heart is not bleeding for disadvantaged. Rather, it is standpoint of self-interested person. Self-interested standpoint means people in original position under spell of rationality, uh, under the veil of ignorance. They believe that today someone in disadvantaged position, and tomorrow another will be. So in liberal theory or liberal mind, while giving its human nature as a rational negotiator or conservative risk taker or averse to risk, his standpoint is not for least advantaged. His standpoint is not for least advantage. So Rawls individual is conservative risk taker. Here he has given a very important example, that is the example of cake cutting, which is based on two assumptions. First is equal distribution. Equality is good. Uh, and second is person with knife will have last and big slide. That is the self-interest nature of human behavior. So when someone is cutting the cake, and it is fixed that he will take the last slice, then he obviously make it big. But if he is unsure that which piece he will get, then he will obviously try to make all the slices of the cake in equal part, so that he can get a equal part, and he avoid risk. So this is the two principles of justice uh, given by John Rawls. Then these principles are criticized by many writers, many thinkers like Robert Nozick, Walzer, Schendel, communitarian feminist. So first criticism is given by Robert Nozick, that is the entitlement theory of justice. Uh, in its book Anarchy, State and Utopia, published in 1974, Robert Nozick was a colleague of John Rawls in Harvard University. So he is a major critic of John Rawls. He wrote from liberal perspective, heavily influenced by Locke's conception of minimal state, protecting property rights. So he provided a theory of entitlement which has three principles. First is principles of just acquisitions or initial acquisitions. Second one is principles of just transfer. And third is principles of rectification. So the first principle is the principles of original acquisitions of property. So this is the original acquisitions or initial acquisitions are first come first serve. So the original acquisitions to property has to be fair, in the sense it has to be gained not by any force or fraud. Then principle of just transfer. So the person utilizing his skill and talent can acquire property and he can transfer it to another owner. So the transfer must be voluntary. It should not be based on force. And the third principle is principles of rectification. The acquisition must not be inimical to the well-being of others. And if the person is acquiring property through force, sound is not clear. Am I audible to you?
Yes, Sanjay, you are audible.
So if a person is acquiring property through unjust means, then he may give compensation to the other people. But the level of compensation, how much is due, is the problem that arises in the Logic's theory. So he calls for a minimal role of the state. State should not interfere in the individual affairs. Let the individual live alone. So that the individual can develop his inner potentialities. He can use his skill to produce more and more. He is not in favor of redistribution of property. Therefore, he regards Rawls' attempt to redistribution of property or the or through taxation system as unjust and inconsistent. It defies a minimal state. So that's why Rawls is known as left liberal and Nozick is known as right liberal, as he belongs to libertarian thought. Then second criticism is given by communitarians like Michael Sandel and Michael Walzer. Communitarian emphasize on the role of the state, whereby the state articulate and aims to bring about a particular conception of good. He rejects Rawls and Nozick's theory of justice, that is the liberal theories designed to apply to all societies. They reject these universalism. These two principles cannot be universalized. They rejected and state principles. They emphasize on culturally specific justice claims, cultural relativism, multiculturalism. They will differ from society to society because every society is not similar. They have their own identity, they have their own uniqueness. So they regard the impositions of liberal principle of justice is undesirable. The individual abstracted from his social political positions cannot be decide the best principles for the society, because individual is born from a particular family, is growing from a particular society, so he cannot abstracted from the social position or society. So that's why communitarian criticized Rawls' book, A Theory of Justice. Subsequently, he revised his theory of justice in his second book, that is called Political Liberalism, where he can develop overlapping consensus, burden of judgment, like that. Then the third criticism is given by feminists like Susan Moller Okin. Okin had added the question of gender to the debate on justice, gender debate. In her book, Justice, Gender and Family, she argues that gender and family are not given considerations in Rawls' theory of justice. Rawls told that these two principles of justice is for social institutions or basic structure of society. It is not for private life. It is for public life. So it is blind to gender issues. Rawls' theory of justice is blind to gender issues, thereby ignoring differences. It emphasizes on male privileges, as it feels that family is in private sphere, and principles of justice are to be applied in public sphere. Thus, women are ignored uh, and injustice is created. So, if you are giving uh, difference principle to the Orstop, then why not to the women? This is the question of Susan Moller Okin. So, Okin thus relates the concept of justice to the inequalities between men and women. Then, socialist critics uh, by Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels. They argues that with the destruction of capitalism, private property and bourgeoisie family, equality and justice can be achieved with the destruction of capitalism. But Rawls is saying that as he belongs to liberal school of thought, capitalism will be there. Then Macpherson repeats the Marxist argument that inequalities in society will lead to class domination. Again, the haves will exploit the have-nots. This will undermine the principles of equal liberties and equality of opportunity. Still, Macpherson feels that Rawls' theory is better than other liberal theories and tries to reach a harmonious society because, uh, as compared to other liberals, Rawls try to liberalize his thought. Then uh, we may go through the Amartya Sen's extensions to Rawls' theory of justice. Rawls attaches central role to the achievement of justice, while Sen concentrated on the extent of the freedom that one has. Sen describes his approach as a capability approach or capability based approach, wherein it is not just access his approach as a capability. It is not just access to primary goods that matters. If you are providing only social primary goods, it doesn't matter. Make them capable so that they can produce for themselves. So the extent of capabilities that each individual has to convert is to these primary goods. These would determine freedom and ultimately uphold justice. Capability thus represents freedom, whereas Rawlsian primary goods are just means to this freedom. So Amartya Sen wishes to substitute a more practical theory of justice to Rawls' idealized theory. Therefore, Amartya Sen emphasizes on a person's real positions in the world and also include those that are not included by Rawls. That is, provide a theory that is truly universal. That is the capability-based approach. So these are the criticism given to John Rawls. So despite his criticism, Rawls is very renowned political theorist and political thinker who tried to synthesize uh, liberalism or liberty with justice for the first time. That's why he got a National Humanities Medal by President Clinton in 1999. Uh, Despite the above criticism, uh, Nozick himself said a theory of justice is a powerful, deep, subtle, wide ranging, systematic work in political and moral philosophy. Political philosophers now must either work within Rawls' theory or explain why not. This is a very important definitions given by Robert Nozick himself. He is the critic. So, political philosopher now must either work with Rawls' theory or explain why not. So, while discussing justice, we can't ignore John Rawls. So, this is basically the idea of justice as fairness given by John Rawls.
So I think it's the complete of your talk, right, Sanjay?
Yes, sir.
Sanjay, I can understand this is your first talk and you have attempted well. And you sound like as if you have
Actually, my
interest
health
in.
is not good. That's why I'm not. I don't want to continue for long, sir. Please
Okay.
forgive me.
But you did well, I think. I think you sound like as if you have interest in political theory, and I'm sure that in your latter part of your professional career, you will definitely take political theory to the next level in Odisha university system. In cricket, whenever there is a newcomers and there is always a attack. Suppose the newcomer is a batsman, then every bowler attack to that new batsman. And today I can also see the similar situation. There are questions, some hands are being raised. They will ask you the question. But before that, I think we have among us Professor Syama Prasad Guru, and he is my teacher, and I am your teacher.
Yes, sir.
So I will not say that he will give his observation, but I think his comments on your talk that will definitely help you to grow as a committed academician. So I am requesting Guru sir to give his comment on Sanjay's talk. Yes, Guru sir.
Yes, I would limit myself to a very brief comment or remark on the discussions and deliberations of Sanjay on this topic. But before I commence my discussions or my comments, I have I have a feeling because I'm listening to the discussions and deliberations of other scholars in this platform. And specifically when I listen to the discussions on the same topic by a teacher from Presidency University, Calcutta, and I compare it with the discussions and deliberations of Sanjay, I find that Sanjay is much better than the former speaker. Much better. At least Sanjay has touched upon the theme, the central theme. No doubt, the discussions on the thematic perspective or context of Rawls, so far as his concept of justice or concept of liberalism are concerned, the discussions didn't appeal me. That is true. But he is much better than the earlier speaker. The problem with Sanjay is he has taken an endeavor to understand the Rawlsian concepts of justice. The topic is on Rawls' concept of justice as fairness. But I didn't find anywhere in the entire discussions done by Sanjay concerning the philosophical foundation of his concept of justice as fairness. What is the philosophical foundation? What is his concept of justice as fairness? Why it is called the concept of fair justice? Why it is called fair justice? And what is the foundation, the philosophical foundation, the normative foundation from which his concept of justice as fairness has derived by Rawls himself? He has missed the link. No doubt he has discussed the key points or key concepts of John Rawls so far as his theory of justice is concerned. Yes, I agree with it. But the discussions lack explanation. And the discussions lack explanation because he has missed the philosophical foundation of his concept of justice. Therefore, he is not able to bring about the linkage between the different concepts used by John Rawls in designing his concept of justice as fairness. Linkage is missed. So when I listened to his discussions and deliberations, I found, or I got an impression as if he is reading something from a written text on dotted lines and delivering the lecture, because the explanation part is found to be totally missing. But yet, the endeavor he has taken, this is his maiden endeavor, first endeavor, it is certainly praiseworthy. This is to be welcomed. But it needs to be flourished with persistent endeavors and insightful inquiry. I found insights missing in the total discussions. Why it is called justice as fairness? Why he calls it so? And what is the philosophical foundation? As I understand it, the philosophical foundation or the philosophy of life on which John Rawls has designed his concept of justice or his concept of state, the liberal state. That philosophical foundation essentially relates to his concept of human nature. So unless we understand his concept of human nature, it will not be possible for us to bring about the linkage and to understand his concept of justice as fairness. That is a philosophical concept of John Rawls. Concept of human nature. And this is essential because this is true in case of each and every political philosopher or a political thinker. What do we mean by political thought or political philosophy? Political philosophy is a part of political thought. There may be two types. The political thought includes normative political philosophy or normative political thinking. At the same time, pragmatic political thinking. There are two different methods in visualizing or conceptualizing a modern state. One is the inductive method, the other one is deductive method. If a thinker employs the deductive method, he builds a political philosophy. If he employs the inductive method, the outcome is a political thought, an empirical political thought. So these are the two different methods used by thinker. One may be normative, another may be empirical. One may be inductive, another may be deductive, in forming his concepts, his ideas. Using either the inductive method or the deductive method, a thinker or a scholar is required to formulate his basic assumptions on human nature. What is his philosophy of man, philosophy of life, philosophy of nature of the individual as a human being? His fundamental postulates, assumptions on human nature constitute the foundation of his thought. It is from that foundation he gradually moves forward in conceptualizing the origin of state, the nature of state, the aims or goals of the state, the structure and functions of the government, and a state-individual relationship involving rights, liberty, equality, justice, political obligation. This is how a thinker proceeds. Basing on his concept of human nature, his foundational concept, he builds a model state. Therefore, political thought is a coherent conceptual scheme designed by a thinker or a scholar, either employing the normative method or the deductive method, and designing a model state that includes his prescriptions concerning the origin of state, nature of state, aims of state, structure of government, functions of government, and state-individual relationship involving rights, liberty, equality, justice, and political obligation. All these aspects must be dealt with. So when we address ourselves to an understanding of political thinker, or political thought of a thinker, whether he is building his model state using the inductive method or deductive method, we must highlight and we must inquire into these essential aspects of political thought. So we must start with his concept of human nature first, the foundational concept of his model. But that is, I found that is missing in case of Sanjaya. And what is John Rawls' concept of human nature? How does he envision human nature? What is his basic postulate, fundamental assumption on human nature? According to John Rawls, man is essentially a just being. This is his basic assumption, just being. And it is from that fundamental assumption on human nature, it derives his concept of justice as fairness. Proceeds to build a model state, what we term as the left liberal or the socialist liberal democratic model of state. So John Rawls assumes, this is his basic assumption. We may agree with him, we may not agree with him. But while we focus on a discussion of his concept, we must first understand what he says, what is his basic assumption, what is his foundational concept of human nature. And his concept is man is a just being. Why he believes that man is a just being? What is his concept of justice, therefore inherent in it? Why does he call man that he is the epitome of justice? Because he believes that justice is the first virtue of man. Justice is the goal of human life. And what he means by justice? He means by justice the synthesis of the values of liberty and equality, resulting in fraternity. This is the concept of justice. Therefore, he calls man as a just being because he finds that man as a human being synthesizes in himself the values of liberty and equality, culminating in fraternity that gets reflected in his thinking and behavior, in his interactions with others. Therefore, man is believed by John Rawls as a just being. And how he identifies the values of liberty and what are the implications there? When he says that man cherishes the value of liberty, practices in his life and in interactions with others, the implication is man considers himself as an end in himself. And he also considers other human beings, fellow human beings, as ends in themselves. What is liberty? Liberty is sovereignty of the individual over himself, over his body and mind. I am an end in himself because I must decide how to organize my life, how I should live, and how I should interact with others. I am to decide. I am the final decision maker. No one can impose his ideas on me. Therefore, I am an end in himself. I am an end in myself. Everyone is an end in himself. Everyone is capable of deciding for himself or for herself, irrespective of gender. Every individual, every human being is capable. Nature has endowed the individual with this capacity to make decisions concerning the way he is to organize his life. What pattern of life he is to lead. What pattern of good life he decides for himself. The individual is therefore the supreme authority for himself. And that is the implication of liberty. He has liberty because he is sovereign over his body and mind. Therefore, he is an end in himself. This is a very essential component of justice, value component of justice. At the same time, the other component is equality. Because these two values are to be synthesized, combined together, harmoniously, fused together in the individual. What is that liberty? What is that equality? And why? Equality is also an essential value of human life. Because once we accept that every individual is an end in himself or herself, every other individuals are also ends in themselves. So every individual is equal with every other individual. No one is a means to an end. Liberty pertains to the individual. Equality pertains to inter-individual relationship. If I consider myself as an end and I believe that others are also ends in themselves, I must treat other individuals with equality, with utter dignity, respect. The consequence is fraternity. That is justice. So man is a just individual because man synthesizes in himself the values of liberty and equality, resulting in fraternity, peace, tranquility, goodness for all. This is his basic concept of human nature. This is the philosophical concept on which he builds his concept of justice. But the problem is, he is not able to reconcile these two values in reality. How can the values of liberty and equality be reconciled together? Because these two are opposite values, opposing values. Liberty and equality cannot cohere together, cannot be synthesized together. This is possible in theory, but never in practice. Why? Because liberty pertains to the individual. It is a capacity of the individual to organize his own life. It is a capacity of the individual to earn his living also. So the right to property enters into it. And it is that right to property, the institutional property, which is the main cause, main evil for creating social and economic inequality. So in reality, these two values cannot be reconciled, cannot be synthesized. That is the problem. And that is the perennial problem of political thought from time immemorial till date. And it will continue to indefinite future till human beings live on this earth. No satisfactory solution has yet been found out. How to reconcile these two values? The two values are essentially opposite to one another. If there is liberty, there cannot be equality. If there is equality, there cannot be liberty. This is the greatest problem, so far as Rawls' concept of justice is concerned. And these values, two values, he has used in designing his theory of justice, therefore. Justice, Rawls' concept of justice, as fair. Why it is called fair? Why justice is called as fairness? Fairness for what? Fairness of the pattern of distribution of social goods. The social goods which are produced through inter-individual cooperation needs to be distributed equally, that is fairly. Fairness requires equality of distribution, perfect equality, because everyone is an end in himself. There must be equality of distribution that is demanded by fairness. But in given situation, equal distribution is not possible. What at best is possible is equitable distribution. And that is why he enunciates the principle of difference, and he identifies the subsidiary principle of equality of opportunity. Everyone must be given equality of opportunity. How? By improving the socioeconomic conditions of the downtrodden, the worst of in society. This is what he does in his theory of justice. So Rawls' concept of justice as fairness needs to be understood on the basis of his philosophical assumption on human nature first. Then only the subsequent aspects of his concept of justice or concept of state, liberal state, may be adequately and meaningfully understood by us. Because of shortage of time, I don't like to linger it on. I need some other occasion to have an extensive discussions on it. But yet, I congratulate Sanjaya. Certainly, I congratulate Sanjaya. This is certainly a better presentation than most of the earlier speakers. Why the Calcutta speaker? Most of the earlier speakers, this is thematic to a greater extent compared to others. And he needs to be persistent in his endeavor in developing himself. And I wish him a bright future as an academician. Thank you.
So thank you, sir. I think Sanjay, right now you have become a teacher, and teacher is always at the receiving end. I think Sir Sanjay has touched upon the main points,
Yes.
but the missing part is that he did not develop a narratives, and you require a better presentation skill, right? So I think presenting something philosophically, this makes a sense. I mean, as if you are, telling a story. This is how thing has developed, right? Uh, but it's okay. I think Sanjay, you should
Sir.
take positively to
Yes.
Guru sir.
Yes, I have
And
started from human nature, sir. I
okay,
have told about human nature, then I have developed his how he reconcile liberty and equality. I told, but I did not linger it.
Yes. You couldn't find out the linkage between these. Therefore, the problem is.
Okay, sir.
Why
I will.
it is, and what type of just human being he envisions? Again, it needs discussions.
Yes.
He says that man is a rational being. Is it
Rational
so?
being. Nominal being.
No. He merely makes use of the word rational. And what is the meaning of rationality in a Rawlsian concept? It is not altruism. Look at the book. It is not complete selflessness of the individual. It is prudence. Long-term self-interest of the individual. That is rationality, as understood by John Rawls and used in his explanation of human nature.
Yes, I have tried to use both the word rational negotiator at the same time self-interested being.
Yes.
And
therefore
his,
the problem arises. In the conclusion, you must attack him.
yes.
okay, I think we should go back to the questions asked by many participants.
Yes. Let the students raise the questions.
Some of the friends of Sanjay, those, recently they have joined in different colleges, especially Tapan has started asking. So Sanjay,
I'm just listening to the discussions and the questions raised by the participants. I'm just listening and getting myself enlightened on the current level of academics in the society.
yes, this is what we are.
Yes.
And once we know where are we at, then we can plan where to go.
Even the questions to be asked by the participants must be precise, to the point, and relevant. They are not expected to ask any question they like. No. For asking a question, they need to understand for it first. Then only they can ask a relevant question. Otherwise, the question will be asked for the sake of asking questions only. Just like Indian opposition, opposing the government for the sake of opposition only. No, that should not be.
Sir, I think we should take the question. I mean, we cannot
Yes.
expect everyone as a John Rawl, but let's try to understand their question, what exactly they are
Yes,
trying to ask.
yes.
So Tapan is asking why all political philosophers, starting from Plato to Rawls, have underscored the idea of justice. According to Plato, justice is right condition of the virtue of the state. How to justify Rawls' theory of justice as fairness over Plato's theory of justice? And in
Yes.
what sense is the difference principles the principles of mutual benefit? In what sense is the difference principle a principles of mutual justice? Yes, Sanjay.
Actually, uh, when we are discussing about any topic, we should go back to Hellenic society because Greek is the mother of philosophy. So we should need to start from Plato, and justice is a very very core idea, which try to establish a just society, try to bring equilibrium. So according to Plato, justice means psychic harmony. Justice is the fourth cardinal features of ideal state. Uh, Following by wisdom, courage, and temperance. So justice means it will psychic harmony means every person is to focus on their own job without interfering into the others. And here, how to justify Rawls' theory of justice as fairness over Plato theory of justice? Rawls' theory is known as justice as fairness because it is based on pure procedure. The Rawls theory is based on is pure procedural. It is why it is pure procedural because a meticulous following of certain principles will result in justice, means just and fair distributions of goods and services. And in what sense is the difference principle a principle of mutual benefit? Difference principle is a principle of mutual benefit because if an individual acquire much property, then he can compensate. He can give taxes to the people, taxes to the state, and the state may utilize the taxes for the benefit of the overstock. This is known as mutual benefit. Are you satisfied, Tapan, or do you want more clarification?
So Tapan, are you there? You
Yeah.
can. Sir, I have muted. You can unmute and you can start. Yes.
तुम्हारा explanation ठीक नहीं आसुचे.
Sir.
Plato संगेरा Rawls
hello,
comparison
sir.
करूचो.
Sir, actually,
How
I am
do you
not
compare
satisfied.
these two?
Hello, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
Sir, I am not satisfied. Actually, I want some clarification from Guru, sir. Please, sir.
What is Plato's concept of justice? And what is Rawls' concept of justice? These two are totally different.
Different, yes.
Though both have started their concept of justice on human nature, yet both are different. So far as the content of their analysis is concerned. What about Plato? Justice is the right condition of virtues of the state. There are three classes in Plato's ideal state: the ruling class, the military class, the producing class. Each class represents a distinct virtue. And how these virtues are to be identified from human nature, derived from human nature. Because human nature is the reflection or manifestation of human soul, which is composed of, according to Plato, three basic elements: element of reason, element of spirit, element of appetite. When these three elements are synthesized in the mind of man, the individual is a just individual, says Plato. Meaning thereby, if reason is predominant, he must display the quality of wisdom in his thinking and behavior. If spirit is predominant in his soul, he must display right action in his thinking and behavior. If appetite is predominant, he must belong to the producing class and undertake the producing functions on the basis of his natural aptitude. So when these three elements of human soul are harmonized, kept in right condition, the predominant element is given precedence over other two elements. There is justice for the individual. And when every class of the society minds its own natural function, the ruling class, the wisdom function, military class, the fighting function, producing class, the function of producing goods and commodities, crops and grains. When every class minds its own function without interfering in the functions of others, specializes in its corresponding function, there is a justice for the total population of the state. So there are two concepts of justice in Plato. One is the individual concept, the other one is the social concept. So it is essentially related to human nature, but human nature is envisioned by Plato in total different perspective on the basis of the qualities of human soul, reason, spirit, and appetite, which the three classes of the population of the state represent. But Rawls' concept of justice is a totally different concept, even if his foundational concept is human nature. He considers man as a rational being. Reasonableness is the identifying feature of man. He is able to decide for himself what is good for him. He is an end in himself. And therefore, he must be given liberty. So when everyone is an end in himself, there must be equality in society. And when these virtues are synthesized, liberty and equality results in fraternity. But there is no concept of equality in Plato. Mind it.
True.
And this is the difference. There is no concept of individual autonomy there. Individual is never considered as an end in himself for Plato. So values of liberty and equality are found to be totally missing in Plato's theory of justice or concept of justice. But these are championed and glorified by John Rawls. This is the difference.
So all are not, rational in Plato's system of
and
justice.
distribution of goods and services is not found in Platonic thought, because the toiling class or toiler class will provide their material resources.
Producing class will mind its own business of producing goods and commodities.
They will provide all the material needs or services to the guardian class.
Yes.
So in Rawlsian justice as fairness, distribution is there.
Yes.
Distribution of goods and services is there.
So what type of justice do you prefer? Ask the question raiser. Does he like to have Plato's concept of justice being deprived of liberty and equality? No.
We all belong to actually liberal school of thought. That's why we prefer Rawls.
Okay, Tapan, I think your question has been answered. So I'm moving to the next question asked by Vasudev. Can we justify the Platonic education system to make philosopher king is similar to the Rawls' veil of ignorance?
How?
Veil of ignorance बोले से गाना बुझी ची पहले को.
Vasudev, are you there?
को हेतल लोग सेथि ले कहूची मु अरे क्वेश्चंस जे पचरौची से भी बुझितिबा कथा सब नहलन को नै पचरे पारे irrelevant is your question.
Okay, sir. If someone is asking question, if we cannot understand his question, so let him speak fast.
Yes,
maybe
let him speak fast. Yes.
Okay, Vasudev, are you there? No, I think he is not there. So I don't think that it's a very good question. It's not a question actually. So Pinky is asking what is difference between Rawls' justice and Plato's justice. It has already been discussed. Right. Then Majnu is asking how can we bring original position and veil of ignorance in real society, because this is a hypothetical kind of thing.
Actually, it is, as you told, it is a hypothetical situation or thought experiment. That's why many thinkers later criticized John Rawls. So instead of end-state principles or individual as unencumbered self abstracting from their social positions, they will choose the principles of justice. Later, he revised his thought in his second book, Political Liberalism, where he's saying about a family of principles, where he's using the term overlapping consensus. So it is basically an idea, and many states are now trying to use some of the ideas of John Rawls, like difference principle, in the form of affirmative action or reservations to deprived sections of people. So while the states are making policies and programs, they are taking ideas from the political philosopher or political theorist. So we cannot ignore completely John Rawls' idea.
Before I go to other questions, so let me take those participants who have raised their hand. Tapan, I think you have still
Sir, actually, I
raised your
don't.
hand.
So my doubt has been clear, sir. Please move to the next question.
Okay.
Yes,
So
sir. Thank you.
Suman, you have raised your hand. Are you have any doubt, Suman? I mean, I think I should not take their hand seriously. Okay, coming to Pralay Mahanti question, is Rawls theory applicable to international relation? If it is, then how do you see in case of Russia and Ukraine war? I mean, Sanjay.
Actually, in his third book, Global Justice, Laws of People. Okay, in his book, Laws of People, he has given the idea of global justice. So every state should follow these principles of justice for the development of all the people. So yes, it is applicable in international relations. But how do you see in this case of Russia and Ukraine war? How can we relate Russia and Ukraine war with Rawls theory of justice? I
I mean,
don't think so.
are you asking him? Are you asking a counter question to him?
Yeah, I want to get a clarification about these questions. What
Okay,
global
Pralay,
justice
are you there? I mean, you
about?
must take the responsibility of your question. Pralay, are you there? No, he is not there. I know people are writing, then they are not explaining what they are writing. Okay. Then another question is asked by Priyatama that, okay, there is no question actually. Okay, Basudev, again he is asking a question. Liberty cannot exist in the sphere of equality among individuals in a society. So how will be a just society will established?
A just society can be established giving each person giving each person his due by providing extra benefit or extra facilities to the deprived sections, as told by John Rawls, because he, in his first principle or equal basic principles, he wanted to give individual liberty. He wanted to develop the individual's liberty through the individual develop its skills and inner potentialities by using its liberty to produce goods and services. Then if certain sections will deprive, then the difference principle can be applicable. Individual first given liberty and opportunity. So by synthesizing both liberty and equality, a just society will be established. But till date, states are thriving to establish a just society.
Okay, I mean, it's good, Sanjay, I think. As your teacher, I'm proud of you. Uh, but you should always develop a narrative kind of, interpretation, and you should make it a kind of, storytelling, so that you are, or you will create the problem, you will solve the problem, you will problematize the problem as well. I think theoretically liberty and equality can be connected, and we can say that fraternity is the child
Outcome.
of.
Outcome.
No, I used to say it in the class. uh, if there is honeymoon between the liberty and equality, then the the child is the fraternity, right? But
fertilization between liberty and
practically it is not possible
yes.
because of ideology. And one of the strongest argument given by the libertarian thinkers that ultimately equality demands taxation practically. And libertarian logic, he consider taxation as a theft money. I mean, I have every right over my labor, and what I produce, it is mine. Why should I give it as a
Yes.
form of tax? You have your liberty. You can use it, developing your creativity, and you can develop yourself. Why should I sacrifice? Now, this is not a selfless kind of thing. This is a selfish kind of thing. That means I want what is with me. I will not share. Now, this is because of this problem. Practically, liberty and equality cannot be combined, and as a result, fraternity, is not being created. That's why the whole idea of social justice is failing today. The whole idea of secularism is also failing. It demands sacrifice, toleration, acceptance, respect, and we all self-seeking individual, we are lacking all these virtues. That's why practically it is not possible. But theoretically it is a possible. Maybe if the society will be a kind of Ram Rajya, maybe Rawls' idea can be practicalized. Maybe the problem what we are continuing with, maybe that problem will disappear. It requires a best individual, right? So this is the, this is not the end. Last part is there. So I want Mukesh.
Another question asked by Subhasri Barik.
Okay, Subhasri, acha.
If Rawlsian theory was justified, then why it is criticized by Nozick and Bhikkhu Parekh? Nozick criticized Rawlsian theory as, because Rawls is killing the skill and talent of individual. If the state will distribute the earnings of mine, then how can I produce more and more? So Nozick said that justice is claim or entitlement. If I will mix my labor with land, that is my property, and I can sell it. So if the state will try to encroach with it, then how can I develop my skill and produce more and earn more for the state? And Parekh criticized the Rawls in the sense of cultural relativism or multiculturalism. So these two principles of justice cannot be applied to all societies or to all culture. This is not end state theories. So every
Okay.
culture has its own uniqueness. Individual is not unencumbered self; he is encumbered self.
Yes, you are right. I think Rawls seems to be, is a kind of idealist, and Nozick and Parekh, they are pragmatist, right? They are having very hard argument, hard rational argument, right? This hard rational argument is very dangerous, Sanjay, as well, right? It can dismantle the society, the concept of social altogether. That is also dangerous. So thank you, Sanjay. Now we arrived at the last part of this event. I want Mukesh to give vote of thanks to Sanjay.
Respected Professor Syama Prasad Guru sir, respected keynote speaker Mr. Sanjay Mihir sir, respected convener Dr. Himanshu Shekhar sir, and all participants, a very good evening to all. I commence with Mr. Sanjay Mishra. Thank you very much, sir, for enlightening our understanding on genres, justice, and fairness. Thank you very much, sir, for your wonderful and beautiful presentation. And I would like to hear you again and again, sir. I extend my thanks to Professor Syamaprasad Guru, sir, for his valuable observations and corrections on the presentation. First thing, that we are very lucky and fortunate enough to have such a great personality among us. Thank you very much, sir, for your valuable observations and corrections on the topic. I extend my thanks to the convener of the talk, Dr. Himanshu Shekhar Mishra, sir. Thank you very much, sir, for organizing such great, for continuously organizing with such talks. For you, sir, we can assess from this ferry, we can assess the teachers, professors, and scholars throughout the country. For that, thank you very much, sir. And thanks to all participants, especially to those who asked questions and those who participated from the beginning to the end. Thank you very much to make the talk such a grand success. Thank you, sir. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mukesh. On behalf of all, I'm also thankful to Sanjay, and Guru sir is always with us. I mean, how many thanks I will give to him. And he's a person who always want the Department of Political Science of Sambalpur University to grow, to develop. So I think we are very lucky that we are making use of him, and he's a very ardent critic, very sharp, and maybe speaker may feel bad about it, but I think academics is all about accepting this hard criticism. And many times personally I have fought with Guru sir, and when I'm fighting with Guru sir, I am also learning many things. I accept, and in some situation I don't accept also, and we go to the books, reference book. In some situation, I got defeated. I mean, in a point, I will not take the name of that author. He's a renowned political scientist in Odisha. He has written something wrong in his book, and we easily trust people. I mean, when people like Guru sir, they should be there, right? Their criticisms are actually the way towards the academics. So we are very lucky. We should face the criticism of Guru sir. Then only I think you can be strong, right? So thank you, sir. We are
Thank you.
blessed. We are blessed. So this is the end of this event. So sir,
I'm also
namaskar.
grateful to you, sir.
Sanjay,
Sir,
Sanjay,
sir.
अरे तुम्हें जतल तक आरंभ करूच ह्यूमन नेचर को नहीं करिए तार आसबो तुम्हें तार ओरिजिनल कंडीशन.
Sir, let me finish the. I mean, stop the recording, then we can chat.
Oh, अच्छा. Oh.